I believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear them. So come with me as we take a walk down Fascination Street. Hey guys, if you like what I'm doing, click the Amazon banner at the top of the homepage on FascinationStreetPod.com and do all of your shopping through Amazon. Once you click on it and it takes you to Amazon, you can bookmark it or add it to your favorites and you won't have to go to my site each time. It helps me keep the show going, and again, thanks for listening. Welcome back, Streetwalkers. This episode is a triumphant return of Vinnie Tortorich. Vinnie has been on my show more than any other guest, and if you have listened to any of his episodes, then you know why. Vinnie brings the goods. The last time Vinnie was on this show, we were doing a crowdfunding for his upcoming documentary. It was called Fat, a documentary. And now that that film is out and is getting rave reviews everywhere, Vinnie is about to start doing press for it all over the place. And I was able to get to him before they did. So, in this episode, we talk about him getting to meet Steve Miller of the Steve Miller Band a couple of weeks ago and what that experience was like. We also talk about Vinnie climbing Mont Blanc and Gran Paradiso, two of the biggest mountains in the world. And finally, we talk about Fat, a documentary, what it was like to make the film, what it was like to get some of the people that he has in the film, and what he hopes people get out of the film. There is a giveaway in this episode. Vinnie and I are giving away a Blu-ray of this film, Fat, a documentary. So pay attention to find out what you have to do to have a chance to win this Blu-ray. So enjoy, folks. This is Vinnie Tortorich, number 3.
Yeah, talk to me, yeah.
Welcome to Fascination Street Podcast, the most popular guest on my show, Vinnie Tortorich. How are you doing, Vinnie?
Well, that's got to be a lie. Right? You see, you started with a lie, Steve.
No, sir. No, sir. Not only are you the most popular, you have been on my show more than anybody else except me.
Okay, that may be true, but you've had Adam Carolla on, right?
I have had Adam on. I've had Drew on. Hell, I've had Ed Asner on, and Clint and Rance Howard. And yeah, you're more popular than all of them.
I'm more popular than Dr. Drew. Is that what you're telling me?
By a lot. Yes, sir.
I can't wait to call Dr. Drew after this and tell him.
I guarantee you that when you say, hey, I was talking to Steve from Fascination Street, he's going to stop you and go, who?
No, Drew, you would be shocked. Drew remembers everything. It's weird.
Yeah, I when I did the interview, it was about a year after I met him in person, and he remembered the weird things that we talked about when I met him in person. So I believe that with his memory.
Well, that's why Drew is Drew. That's why he's better than all of us.
Well, yeah, he's definitely better than me over here. So, Vinnie Tortorich, man, we got a lot to catch up on. So the last time you were on, we were doing sort of a crowdfunding to help get this movie made. It's called Fat, a documentary. And that was the last time you were on. And since then, the movie has been completed. It has been released. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get into that, you've done some really cool shit since then. So let's talk about you mountain climbing Mont Blanc.
Yeah, it's funny. I like to put something in my way every year, and by that I mean, look, we can all go one day, I can't tell you how many of my friends over the years, and I think we can all relate to this. We all do it. One day I'm going to run a marathon. One day I'm going to write that book. Even podcasting, I hear people saying, I'm going to start my own podcast. I have a great idea for a podcast, and you'll talk to them a year later, and you'll go, how's that podcast going? Yeah, I don't have it off the ground yet. And a podcast is the easiest thing in the world to start. The only hard part about a podcast is to make it popular. Starting a podcast is simple. You just have to press a button, and you're a podcaster. Yet people can't seem to get that. They can't do that simple thing.
Well, I started my podcast a little over 2 years ago, and for about 3 years before that, I was one daying about making a podcast. So I agree with you 100%.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment. What does it feel like now? I mean, when you look back, can you ever imagine not doing a podcast?
When I first started, my goal was at the end of 1 year to have had 5,000 downloads. That was my goal. And at the end of that year, I had 7,500 downloads. And at the end of the second year, I had far more than that. So no, I can't imagine not doing it. I love it so much. Besides getting to talk to your silly ass, I get to talk to a bunch of other people who I also like. And I've made so many friends that I still have, yourself included, because of this show. And so, I mean, I kind of don't care if anybody listens, which is a lie, but I do love meeting the people that I get to meet. I mean, the episode that came out today is the touring guitar player for Gene Simmons and Ace Frehley when they do their solo bands.
Oh, wow. My podcast, when it first started getting ready, I've been out longer than Steve, everybody. My podcast has been out for like 7 or 8 years now.
What's it called?
My podcast is Fitness Confidential. And I remember when my show got to 100,000 people a month. Now it's like 1 million. But back when it was 100,000, I was bragging to my buddy Steve, not this Steve, a different Steve.
A different buddy, Steve.
Yeah, who's kind of an asshole. And
maybe it is me.
No, this guy, Steve, you don't ever want to be this. Oh, wait, no, it wasn't Steve. It was Jonathan. Steve and Jonathan hang out together. It was Jonathan. So it wasn't Steve. I'm sorry, Steve. You're not an asshole. Jonathan is. And he was like, how long have you been doing that? I don't know, a couple of years. He goes, how many downloads do you get a month? And at the time, it was like 120,000 or something, 130 average. And I said, man, we get over 100,000 a month. And he goes, well, that's not like a whole lot of people. I mean, he started in the Kardashians have like 20 million people following him on Twitter, the whole thing. And I let him talk for a minute. I said, Jonathan, can you imagine being on the center stage of, I don't know, the Superdome when it's packed to capacity crowd and giving a speech? He goes, no, man, I probably crap my pants. I said, that's 100,000 people. That's who I'm talking to. I'm talking to the Superdome full of people. He thought about it for a second. He goes, well, I never. And by the way, he's supposed to be a motivation guy. That's what he does for a living.
That's awesome.
People don't put it in that perspective. The other night I went to the Greek Theater to watch Steve Miller.
Oh, we're going to talk about that too.
Oh, good. Oh, you know about that?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Well, I went to watch Steve Miller. There was like 3,500 people. I don't think the Greek holds more than that, maybe 4,000 people.
Right.
So, yeah, you're talking to more people than Steve Miller plays to nowadays.
Yeah, take that, Steve Miller.
Take that, Steve Miller, joker.
You joker.
I like an eagle on this, brother.
Tell me about that experience, because I know that you got to meet him, and you got to meet somebody else that night, too.
Who else did I meet?
I think it was on a tweet. Talk about meeting Steve, and I'll find that tweet.
So, yeah, the road manager who follows my podcast, he's a really cool guy, Brett Enzensberger. You can't make up that name. And, every summer Brett comes to town, Steve Miller comes to town, and Brett's been Steve's manager for a long time. He's like, hey, man, come on to the concert, come on out. And the past 2 summers, I've been traveling. I just couldn't go. And I grew up with Steve, Steve Miller, all those kind of earworm songs, Fly Like an Eagle, The Joker, and all these songs from my childhood. And so I really wanted to see the guy. And so this summer I was able to make it there. And of course we got to drive right up, and they had a parking space edged out for us right there behind the tour bus and all that kind of stuff.
Really?
And, yeah. It was that kind of thing, like the red carpet. So we were there, and we met some people backstage and different stuff. One person I met that I'll tell you, when you're backstage, each room backstage has like its own bathroom, and I had to take a leak. So someone was in one of the bathrooms, so I tugged on the door and I said, I'll just wait. Whoever's in here will be out in a second. And out walks this old lady, like this older lady, and I didn't recognize her. And I said hi, and she said hi, and she moseyed on past, and I walked in. Turns out she just murdered that bathroom. She just hammered it, right? And I'm like breathing through my mouth, going, Jesus Christ, oh my God, Jesus Christ. So I go out, talking to some of the band members and hanging out. Some of them are vegans and so on and so forth. One thing leads to another. And we go out, and Marty Stewart is the warm-up act. He's a country and western guy. He played with Johnny Cash, wrote a lot of stuff we've heard of. And so I like country and western music. I'm enjoying Marty Stewart. And then Marty goes, all right, I'm going to bring my Grammy-winning wife out here.
Oh, no.
Who's he married to? Because these are like older country and western people. Like, who could he be married to? And she's in the Country and Western Hall of Fame. Merle Haggard, I think, was the person who inducted her. She's a real legend in country music. Please welcome Miss Connie Smith to the stage. Out walks the woman who I just passed backstage.
Oh, my gosh.
Killed the bathroom. I'm like, oh, my God. I was smelling some Connie Stevens back there. Look at me.
Connie Smith.
I'm sorry, not Connie Stevens. I've never met Connie Stevens.
Yeah, don't hang that on Connie Stevens, man.
I've seen Connie Stevens out and about. I've just never met her. She's still a gorgeous woman, even at her age, still holding it together really well.
And you've probably never walked into a bathroom she ruined either.
No, but I'm willing to try. Not that I'm kinky or anything. I would like to go, just like a dog. I have a hunting dog. And whenever my bitch takes a leak, the other dog goes and covers it. So, I covered Connie Smith the other night. That's just the way us old dogs work.
All right, I found it. Oh, yeah, that's who you were talking about. Oh, sorry. So the one that you said, more importantly, finally meeting, that was the manager, Bretson.
Burger. Yeah.
Jesus.
You cannot say that name you can't even say it one time really fast, much less 3 times really fast.
Good Lord.
He's a really cool guy, by the way.
That's
You've probably seen him on like my website, or he tweets all the time and everything. He's a really cool guy.
Right. The name is familiar. I mean, I'll never be able to pronounce it, but yes, the name is 100% familiar for sure.
When you tweet after the show, look for him and put him in there and go, hey, we were talking about you on the podcast. He's a really cool guy. And I felt like I met a friend that night. Looking forward to seeing him again. And by the way, looking forward to seeing Steve Miller again. I want to go see that guy again. He's good in concert.
Well, he's been doing it for so long. I bet he is just spot on with every single thing he does. He's done it so long. It's old hat. I bet he just has a routine and he nails it every single time.
Well, I've only seen him do it one time and he nailed it. It's weird. Like the first song or two, the voice seemed a little hoarse, a little this, a little that. I was like, oh, maybe he's sick tonight. Maybe, when you're 76 and you're doing this. Once his voice warmed up, he was spot on. And I was like, wow. Yeah, this guy, look at him. He's still doing it, still playing the crap out of the guitar. The whole deal. He's not mailing it in. He's up there.
That is so dope. And did Serena go with you? I think I saw her in the picture.
She did. She wasn't feeling well. And she was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it tonight. I said, honey, just go through the motions, get dressed. I think you're going to enjoy yourself. And she was like, all right. Got out there, had a great time. I thought surely we were going to have to leave early because, we've both been under the weather with all the travel and everything. And I was like, man, I know she won't make it until the end. She was rocking along and singing and standing and, dancing and doing the whole deal.
That is awesome. Good to hear. Good to hear. Now tell me about climbing mountains. It wasn't just Mont Blanc. You climbed another one, didn't you?
Yeah, I needed a warm up.
Oh, yeah. So go back. You were talking about how you put something out there every year. Some people have a bucket list or whatever. We got sidetracked. That's where you were talking about.
Exactly. I don't really have a bucket list, so to speak. If you don't put something out there, you're not going to do it. You're not going to get it done. And I've been trying to kayak down this bayou I grew up on. And, I was getting in really good shape for it. As a matter of fact, Corolla asked me about it. He goes, didn't you kayak some river or something? I was like, in the midst of getting ready for it, I blew my elbow out. Apparently, when you get older, you got to pay attention a little more. So I blew my elbow out, and I was in really good aerobic shape. And my buddy Don kept talking about, hey, you don't climb that much anymore. Back in the 80s, I did almost every 14er in this country. meaning 14,000 foot peak. And I used to do a lot of rock climbing back in the 90s and, that kind of stuff. And I don't do much of it anymore. And he said, have you ever climbed a glacier? And I said, no, I haven't. And he said, let's do a glacier. Now, when he said that, I thought we were going to do Mount Shasta or something up in Seattle, maybe Mount Hood. I didn't know what he was referring to. I thought it would be like a quick, let's just get our crampons on and just go up there and come down. But he said Mont Blanc. And I knew a little bit about Mont Blanc. I have a Mont Blanc pen. I'm a fan of the company.
Is it in France, the mountain?
It is. It's in Chamonix, right on the Italian border in the French side of the Alps. So I said, okay, Mont Blanc sounds good. And I put on a light backpack in January and started walking up and down the mountains close to me. As a matter of fact, the aforementioned Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew has one of the longest paths right behind their house. It goes up to 6,000 feet over in Pasadena. It's called Mount Wilson. And it's 7 miles up and 7 miles down. And I would put on like a 10, 15 pound pack and I'd walk up and then walk down twice every weekend. And then, by the end of January, I was going up with 15 and 20 pounds on my back. And, of course, keeping up during the week, getting to the gym, doing some stair machine and so on and so forth, spinner at home and what have you. And by the time we got to May, I had a 40 pound pack on my back, going up. Not only that, but then I started going to Mount Baldy because that goes up to 10,000 feet. I wanted to get more altitude training in me besides. And by the way, if people think it doesn't snow in LA, I got snowed on 5 or 6 times at the top of the mountain right behind Dr. Drew's house.
Really?
In January and February. Yes, sir. Whenever it's raining at Dr. Drew's, it's snowing up there. Because it goes up high enough to where, the altitude change.
Right.
It's cold enough. And one guy one weekend up there died, slipped off the mountain. It snowed enough and he wasn't, guys go up there in their running shoes and what have you and slipped off and fell to his death. But yeah, did all the training there. Went off to London, visited my in-laws for a few days. Then went to Italy and climbed Gran Paradiso, which is the highest spot in Italy. It's almost like climbing Whitney. It's about 14,000 feet, if I'm guessing right. But it's a glacier. There's a lot of crevasses, and, you had to kind of, pretend you were on a real glacier because you were. Your crampons and your ice axe and the whole deal. So did that, came down, drank a bunch of espresso, rested for, maybe 2 days. And then we went up Mont Blanc and knocked that out. So, yeah, I know that's a long, boring story for your audience, but it gave me a reason to train.
For everybody who might have been bored by that story, I just want to point out that Vinnie is 26. No, wait. Vinnie's 56 years old. And if you listen to the previous episodes, like especially the first one, which was a 2-parter, the things that Vinnie has overcome in his life and his health. And to be able to have gone through all of that and then climb these 2 mountains at 56, that is amazing, Vinnie. Hats off, sir. Well done.
Well, thank you, but you're over-thanking me. I think if you're not afraid of heights, you can definitely conquer Mont Blanc. It is the deadliest mountain in the world. Most people, what about K2? What about, Mount Everest? Yeah, a lot of people die there, but more people have died on Mont Blanc than anywhere else because they don't pay attention and it can be very dangerous. And if it's bad weather, you're not supposed to climb and you have to really pay attention. The mountain will take you down every single time. I'm an atheist, but we're not better than the mountain gods.
Matt D'Andrea, right?
We had steak on Saturday evening. Yeah.
So not at all. There you go.
I know. Matt, who? What?
Yeah. He has a friend who, her name is Anna Joller. Joller like baller, she says. I interviewed her and she actually climbed Kilimanjaro and it almost killed her, and she's I'm gonna say less or right at half your age.
What's her name? Anna Joller?
Joller, Jaller. She tells the story on her episode of Fascination Street podcast. So all you fools who didn't listen, go back and listen. But the next time you're around Matt D'Andrea, just ask him about her and that, because that's a wild story.
Oh, I'm looking at her right now. She, beautiful girl, looks very young.
Yes, very young.
So this might help Anna's case out a bit. What people don't realize is the mountain I climbed is way more technical than Kilimanjaro. Most people do, they call it Kili in the business. Most people do Kili first because Kili is just a walk up. There's really no exposure. There's no ledges. You don't really have to be technical. If you can hike, you can get to the top of Kilimanjaro. The problem with Kilimanjaro is it's actually higher than Mont Blanc. And some people, it doesn't matter what kind of shape you're in. If you're going to get altitude sickness, you're going to get altitude sickness. And that's it. You could be the fittest guy in the world, and altitude sickness can take you down. I've been lucky. I could have gotten past, I know I could go to 14.5 because I've been, or 14.6, I've been that high, but you never know where it's going to hit you. And doing Kilimanjaro, that's 19,000 feet. And even though it's an easy walk up, you are at altitudes. So let's give her a bit of a break. Hopefully it was the altitude that got her and not.
It was 100% the altitude. It was a crazy story.
Did she make it to the top or?
Yes, I believe she did, against some other people's concern.
Well, the good news about altitude sickness is as soon as you turn around and start heading down, you get less sick. It reverses itself. You get better.
Well, she ended up having to be carried down, and she had to stay in some shithole hospital for a couple of days.
Oh, so she was probably dehydrated. Do you remember if she had pulmonary edema or brain edema?
I think it was pulmonary edema. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what she said.
Oh, I've seen people with it. Some people get it at 10, 11,000 feet. It's miserable. It's miserable.
Yeah, it didn't sound like a good time. It sounded horrific. And she told that story right on the heels of her telling the story about how she went swimming in shark-infested waters because she thought it was fun or whatever the fuck. It was a pretty daredevil adventure. It was pretty crazy. But yeah, next time you're with Matt, ask him about that. That's some crazy shit. Now, I think we have waited long enough. I want to talk about Fat, a documentary.
Me too.
I'm pissed off. The reasons that the ketogenic diet hasn't become more popular has nothing to do with efficacy at all.
In the Dietary Guidelines for Americans, they recommend fewer calories, less fat, less saturated fat, less cholesterol.
The history of science is full of commonsensical facts that turned out to be dead wrong when we did the science.
The question remains, what food should we eat to achieve good health?
Less sugar, less salt, more fiber.
You're telling people from different parts of the United States what to do, how to do it, and everyone's just throwing their hands up going, I'm going to do the best I can.
The myths have become ingrained in our society too strongly for people to realize they're myths.
What are some of the health myths we hear every day?
Grains are good for you and fat is bad for you.
Calorie in, calorie out.
The low-fat diet is a healthy diet.
We saw fat in the coronary arteries, and that must come from ingested fat.
There's incontrovertible evidence that saturated fat is bad.
Like hot oil down a cold stovepipe. It would just clog up your arteries and give you a heart attack.
It doesn't take long for media to pick up on these things, and we don't realize it's happening, but it's happening right in front of us.
I'm getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
And the bigger he gets, the harder his heart cells have to work. Mr. Fat, you're a real killer.
I realized that we had gotten it completely upside down and backward on fat.
Imagine someone who spent his whole career getting the wrong answer.
When you look at the arteries of people that go on a ketogenic diet, they tend to be more clogged.
Not only are you wrong, you're completely wrong. Imagine the press release you would have to write. Dear American public, we're sorry if we killed prematurely your loved ones and your parents, and maybe we're killing you. But in retrospect, we shouldn't have given the advice we did.
There are powerful forces at work that have nothing to do with good health.
This is the world we live in. This is our society. This is our community. And if we don't fix it, who will? No one will. If you think it's up to government, you're wrong. If you think it's up to industry, you're wrong. It's up to you.
All right, so everybody listening, obviously Vinny has been on here before and talked about it. Also, the director, Peter Pardini, he was on here and talked about it as well. So go back and check those episodes out. They were really, really good. So tell me how it felt to finally have that movie in the can, so to speak.
It's funny because I'm going to name drop here, but I was just at the gym, which sounds douchey. I was just at.
Woo! He just name dropped the gym, folks.
Well, I didn't do the name drop yet, but I was.
Oh, okay.
And my buddy John Mendoza, the comedian, walked in, and John and I go way back, and he was like, "Man, your film! Oh my God!" He opens a lot for Howie, and they're good friends, and so I name dropped twice there.
Mandel.
Yeah, and we all used to hang out a lot. I love John, and he goes, "Man, the movie," and we're all looking at it. What is done is amazing. And I said, "Yeah," and he goes, "How does it feel?" He was saying, "How does it feel to be a dumbass and then have a hit movie?" And I'm like, "Well, still a dumbass. Let's not sugarcoat that." But I said, it's funny, when Peter Pardini convinced me to do this movie, I never thought it was going to get done. Because it's like, who's going to give me the money to do this? And we did the campaign, and pretty quickly it looked like we were going to get the money. And the first thought in my mind was, fuck, now I got to go do a movie. And as it turns out, I didn't really have to do a movie because Peter Pardini is the movie maker. So Peter Pardini had to go make a movie. I just had to supply the content, which I think I'm pretty good at because I've done it like 1,400 times on my podcast. But still, we had to do a movie. You have people's money. It's crowdfunded. Now you don't want to let those people down. And that's kind of where I was. So we did the movie, and now the movie is, it's in the can once you have all the interviews.
Right.
Now we have to take these interviews and turn them into something because you just have a bunch of interviews. And again, Peter Pardini, I would come home every night and tell Serena, I go, "You do know that Pardini's a genius, right?" And she was like, yeah, I've heard you say that. I said, no, he's really a genius because what this kid can remember. It's like, oh yeah, this person said that, let's put it in here. And that person said that, let's put it in there. How he remembers to do that, I have no idea. Maybe it's youth, I don't know. But I call it being a genius because he could figure all that stuff out on the fly. So then we started putting the movie together, and at some point it started. If you hear clip clop, there's my dogs coming in because they need pets. At some point, it started looking like a movie. But then I started getting high on my own supply because I'm looking at everything going, okay, I'm loving this, but am I loving it because we did it, or am I loving it because it's good? Does that make sense?
It does.
And I couldn't answer that question. I was in love with what we were doing. And I was also very scared to show it to anyone. As a matter of fact, we didn't show it to anyone at all throughout the whole making of it. And it was already in the can and it was done, like in the can done. And I'm going to admit something I should never admit. I was over at my buddy Doug Richardson's house. And this is the part I shouldn't admit. We were watching, Bachelor. Because our wives are watching it, so I'm over there.
Sure, they are.
I'm not kidding about that part, okay?
Uh-huh.
You were drinking scotch and smoking cigars, all right?
Okay.
Okay. Like man cigars, too, like the ones from Cuba and shit, bro. That's right. Yeah.
Nice.
So, and by the way, Doug is the guy, you ever hear the term yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker?
Yeah, I think I heard it. I heard it one time in a movie a long time ago.
He wrote that line. He wrote that movie.
So what does he say? Is that a Christmas movie or not?
I will ask him tonight because I'm watching Bachelor. I mean, our wives are watching Bachelor in Paradise. I hate that I admit this. That's kind of what we're doing. And he was like, "Hey, man, you never showed me the movie." And I said, "Oh, you need some more scotch?" He goes, No. Do you not want me to see the movie? And I said, here, maybe you need some ice in your scotch. He was like, okay, what's the problem? And I said, Doug, no one's seen the movie yet. And he said, why? And I said, because I'm scared to show it to anyone. He was like, all right, if you don't want me to see it, that's fine. And Serena said, why don't you let someone see it? That's how scared I was. And not only am I letting someone see it, I'm letting an A-rated Hollywood screenwriter see it. I thought about showing it to my buddy Dean Laurie, but I decided not to. And then I have Doug, and I have a few other people like Howie, the aforementioned Howie. And I was like, I didn't show it to any of them, but I did show it to Doug. And then I was at Doug's house the next night, And I walked in and I wasn't going to say anything. I was like, maybe he didn't watch it yet. Maybe he was busy all day. Who knows? I walked in and he held his hand up and I'm like, what? He goes, high five. I went, what is it, 1990 again? What are we doing? He goes, he goes, dude, the movie hit on all levels. He said, there's not a single note. As a matter of fact, he goes, I think something was out of place here. There's like some words. And he mentioned that. And we went back and watched it. And I said a word wrong. It was me that said it. And we went back and dubbed the correct word in.
Oh, no. Now he gets a writing credit? Damn it.
No, he gets a suggestion credit.
Oh, okay.
He was like, yeah, you should change this wording to yippee-ki-yay and something like that. He goes, trust me, you can buy houses for the rest of your life. So Doug is not the kind of guy that, he's a real friend. If it sucked, he would have said, you can't put this out. And he didn't do that. He let it ride. He said, this is perfect the way it is. And, I trusted him and we put the movie out exactly like that. And it turns out that the audience felt the way Doug felt. And I'm bragging right now, but the thing has been reviewed like 400 times on iTunes and nary a bad review.
Well, I was just looking, and even on Amazon, it has 138 reviews, and 97% of them are 5 stars. So it's got a 4.9 rating just on Amazon.
You know more than me about it. I don't go and look at reviews. I just, I'll get my assistant. I'll sit right before I do an interview. I'll go, how many reviews do I have, and are they good? She says, yes, you can say this or that.
Well, of all of those, there's only one that I would consider ungood, and it was 1 star, and it was just somebody being a dick. They said they didn't even like you, so.
Oh, good. Well,
so that's not reviewing the movie. That's reviewing you, so I don't even count that one.
There's a lot of people that don't like me, so that's fine. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, you've called a few people an asshole just in the last 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So the film has a lot of different people in it, experts and even some famous people and whatnot. Was there anybody that you were surprised that you were able to get in the film?
Interesting question. The only one who, when I called him up, he was in the middle of writing a book, and I think the only reason we started talking, I was driving from Baton Rouge, Louisiana to New Orleans, driving across that swamp. And I called Gary Taubes, and I said, Gary, look, have you heard that I'm doing this movie? And he said, yes. And I said, so this phone call is my official ask to you. And he said, well, what do you know about making a movie? And I said, well, absolutely nothing. And he says, what makes you think you can make this movie? And I said, nothing makes me think that. I said, the only thing I have going for me is Peter, who's done a hit movie about the band Chicago. And then Gary and I talked about Chicago and all of our favorite songs. Gary and I are about the same age for about 30 minutes. And mainly he was worried about being embarrassed. I mean, Gary is well known and the whole thing. And he didn't want to be in a piece of crap movie where he could be embarrassed or whatever.
Right.
I said, Gary, look, you just trust me. And if you need final cut or something on your piece alone, let me know and I'll let you look at it. But that was the one where, he wasn't sure. When I called Nina, she was fine with it. And once you have Nina Teichels and Gary Taubes, then it's easy to call, Jeffrey Gerber or Ivor Cummins or anyone else because you already have all the top people. And by the way, Dr. Drew, I didn't even really ask him formally. I asked him on the show. I said, Drew, look, Corolla never put you in his movies, but I tell you what, I'll put you in mine as a joke. So that was like stunt casting for me. And Drew ended up bringing the goods. People loved what Drew. How did you feel about Drew's appearance in the movie?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you and tell you that I've only seen the trailer because I'm still waiting. I haven't seen the movie yet.
Oh, you gotta watch the movie.
Well, I know I have to watch the movie. I just haven't yet. I would imagine it's coming, but I just haven't watched it yet. And I want to pick a time where my wife and I can both watch it because in a previous life, my wife was in the Navy, and at one point she was charged with fitness for a naval base, keeping everyone fit. So I want to make sure she watches it as well. It just hasn't happened yet.
Well, I would be interested in her opinion on it too. I think you're going to be shocked at what you see in the movie, and you'll get why it's got the reviews it's got and the whole thing. And it's not because of me, and it's not because I'm in the movie. It's because of how we did it. We didn't tell any lies. We didn't pull any punches. You know, a lot of people wanted me to do the anti-vegan version of a movie, and I said I'm not willing to do that. I have nothing against vegans. I just hate vegan propaganda. You know, I'm just into telling the truth, and that's what we try to do here.
Well, judging from the reviews and from even not the reviews, but just the chatter that I've seen on social media, whether it's Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, I haven't seen anybody say anything bad about this movie. It's all, oh my God, everybody needs to watch this. Oh my gosh, I'm showing it to my people. Oh my gosh, I'm showing it to my other people. It's just a lot of that. So I think that is kick ass. And, you know, like I said, I'm really, really looking forward to it. It just hasn't happened yet.
Look, here's the deal. We put it out. There's no advertising. We didn't have any budget to advertise. All the money went into the making of. And, you know, we got it with a major distributor, with Gravitas Ventures, and they put it on all these platforms. And the movie has done so well, money-wise, for them, that they're putting some money behind advertising now, and they're actually getting me on some bigger shows.
Like this.
Like this, yeah. I'm on your show, and I will be on other big shows. You know, and they're even shocked. You know, everybody's kind of shocked as to what happened here. And I'm shocked, too. I can't sit here and go, well, I tried to tell them. You know, nobody would listen to me. I can't do that because that would be a lie. I did not know what was going to happen. I did not think this was going to happen. That's for sure.
Now, when Vinnie was talking about, you know, they put all the money into the movie and there wasn't any money for advertising, I just want to let everybody know that if you've ever heard of a movie before you saw it, then they spent a shitload of money in advertising. There used to be a rule in Hollywood, medium level movies, you know, like they would spend $4 million making a movie and $20 million advertising for that movie.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
And so, you know, that movie has to do really, really well to clear a profit when the ad budget is 4 times the movie budget. So that's what he was saying when he said that they didn't really have money for advertising, because that's what it takes, is a big, huge influx like that. And so that's why, you know, there was no real advertising campaign. It was all kind of, you know, guerrilla marketing and street level and just sort of word of mouth. And so now that it's blowing up and you're going to be on all these other things, are you going to, because I know that you were on the Oprah Winfrey show when she had a televised talk show a long time ago.
Right.
Are you going to be on her podcast?
Yeah, I would like to be.
Do I need to make a phone call?
Yes, you do. Even though I've been on Oprah's show several times, I don't have a direct line. Some people think I have a direct line into Oprah, and I don't. I wish I did. But the funny thing is we talk about Oprah in the movie. You know, whenever you put a movie out, you have attorneys and all this stuff, and they're like, are you sure that everything here? So we had to go through 5 different ways, make sure everything was completely accurate, and so on and so forth about Oprah and what we were saying about Oprah. And I would love for Oprah to have me on so I could talk about what we said about her in the movie, because it wasn't anything against Oprah. It was just showing how media can muddle something up. Even the great Oprah Winfrey can get something wrong sometimes. And I wanted that story to be loud and clear. So, yeah, we did that in the movie.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, I asked you if there was anybody that you were surprised you were able to get. Was there anybody that you weren't able to get that you were hoping to get?
Not really. Once, sounds braggadocious, but it's not meant to be. My podcast has kind of become the clearinghouse for any of these doctors. All these doctors have figured out that the only way they can make a dime these days is to write a book and then get that book sold on the internet. You know, doctors don't make the kind of money they used to make with all this Medicare and healthcare and all this stuff. Somewhere along the line, a bunch of these agents, they figured out that my podcast sells a lot of books for these doctors. So all of these doctors are constantly kissing my ass for this single reason. They're not kissing my ass because they like me. They know that my podcast is a place to do this. So the feeling was, wait, if this movie is anywhere near his podcast, we need to be in this movie. So I had the dubious job of some of these doctors calling me going, hey, can I be in the movie? And having to tell them, I don't think I have room for the number of people I have in it now. I could do another whole movie with the doctors I didn't get to work with who would do just as good a job as the ones I did pick, because there are that many good doctors out there. And I just had to go with, I just kind of did an eeny, meeny, miny, mo and picked who I thought would be best for this movie, knowing full well that I could do 3 more movies like this and never run out of doctors. And if that makes me sound like an asshole, so be it. But that's me speaking the truth about how this went.
Nice. Well, I think that it's not really bragging if the product supports it. Does that make sense? Like, Kobe and LeBron, they know they're good, and so they say they're good, and they are good. And so I don't think it's bragging if you can.
Yeah, but I'm not Kobe and or LeBron. I'm just a guy that's putting the information out there. That's what I have to offer in the internet world, is I just put information out. Kobe and LeBron are good no matter what. I need these doctors to be good. Bottom line, that's where I am with it. I need these doctors more than they need me. But they see it the other way around.
I guess that makes sense, but I still think you're Kobe.
I'll be your Kobe.
Do you think that you said everything that you wanted to say in this film?
No, that was impossible to do. We did 90 minutes. We could have done 3 hours. We really could have. But we got a very clear and concise message across. People have written to me, some lawmakers have said, you need to speak before Congress. And I'm like, I'm not so sure we're there yet.
Why not? Fucking Adam did, and so did Drew. Get in there, dude. Go speak in front of Congress.
Go speak to Congress, and you give them a what for, pal? Hey, Congress, we have Vinnie, a guy who made a film here. Vinnie, what do you have to say? You guys are screwing up. Go Dodgers. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't think Congress is ready for me or something.
Well, were there things that ended up getting, I guess, left on the cutting room floor that you wish were in the film? I mean, I know if everything you wanted to be in the film was in the film, it'd be a 19-hour documentary. But were there some things that, looking back, you wish wouldn't have been left on the floor?
No, and I'm going to go back to Peter Pardini's a genius. Because, whenever I would go, we need to put this in, he would go, we need to keep the story going in a straight line. That would go off into the weeds. And he was right. And we had to keep the movie moving in a straight line. There is another whole, I could take the same people that were in this movie, the same cast, and do another movie. And, I have another idea. I can use those same interviews and do another whole movie. It's on the same subject, but it's to show some conspiracy here, there, and everywhere else. And you would go, my God, he didn't even have to shoot anything extra. He made a whole nother movie out of what was left over.
Is there any thought to doing that?
I don't know. We're thinking about just putting out, because I want to prove to the whole world that we didn't cook any of this information. So we're going to be putting out the full interviews in a PDF. So if people want to read them for free, just go get them and read them.
Oh, wow.
That, people talk about transparency in this world. I'm going to go, here it is. Here's every transcript. Here you go. We're doing all of them except mine, because mine, there would be a lot of, wait a minute, I fucked up that word. Let's go back. Pick it up right where I said the. Okay. It would be a lot of that. But other than that, no problem.
Well, that is kick-ass. Was there anything that you learned that you didn't know prior to making the film? Was there anything that you learned during the course of making the film?
Wow. Look, you learn something every day. I learned a lot about what it takes to make a movie. We had a full film crew, like a real film crew. Look, anyone can point a camera at someone and do it that way. And look, a lot of times I was sitting there and the cameraman would take 2 hours to get the camera ready and the light ready and the whole thing. And there's a whole crew doing all this stuff. And this guy's going, put this over here and do that over there. And I'm going, really, can't we just point a cell phone at me and let's get rolling? And I didn't understand any of that and why it was so important. But when you watch the movie, it's pleasing on the eye. You're not thrown by the color or anything. Everything matches. So it's not a crappy, a lot of times you'll see these movies, especially documentaries, and you're thrown by, oh, that's not colored the way that other thing was colored. The sound is different. And this thing, the one thing everyone keeps saying in the reviews is, wow, It was 90 minutes long. It felt like it was 15 minutes long. I was just getting into it and it was over. I didn't realize I sat there for 90 minutes. It's because you're never pulled out of it. You're constantly in it. You never get let off the hook.
Well, I think that's what you want in any great documentary, or any movie for that matter.
Look, I did the same thing with my book.
Which one?
The second one, Fitness Confidential.
Oh, okay.
Any word that wasn't, needed was cut out. It's just, I'm cutting that whole word out. It's not. I took that when I was a kid. I used to love reading Hemingway, and Hemingway would economize words so that everything just flowed. And no, I'm not Hemingway, but, Vinnie can do what Hemingway did and just economize words and just get the flow going. There's no reason to make people read too many words.
I think that's what George Carlin did. And, that's one of the reasons that he is so, beloved and on such a high pedestal, is because of the economy of words. He got rid of everything that didn't need to be there. And I think that is one of the great tactics for making a great product, whether it be comedy, whether it be a book, whether it be a film. In all reality, these people are giving you 90 minutes of their life. You shouldn't waste it. Yeah. And it doesn't sound like you did.
Well, I'm hoping I did. Here's to hoping that I did a good job, and so far the audience seems to like it, and, Gravitas seems to be enjoying all of it and everything. And, I'm told that it's going to be on airplanes and, this and that and the whole thing. So I'm looking forward to coming back from taking a leak and seeing my face on the back of a seat one day. That's when you made the big time. Yeah, and I know it's going to happen. I'm going to tell the guy sitting next to me, that's me, and he's going to go, yeah, pal, because I never look like me. I always have a beard or something else. And
yes, you usually don't look like you. The couple of times I've seen you, you don't look like you.
Yeah, that's right. And you didn't look like you. Apparently, you saw me at Corolla, and I walked right past you or something.
Yeah, because I had lost, 40 pounds or whatever since I had seen you the last time. Well, I guess I probably only 27 or something from the previous time back then. And you didn't even recognize me, which is a little bit weird because the first time we met, we just sat down and talked for like 2 hours. And then the second, when
my thing was, if someone doesn't come up and say hi to me, it means I didn't know them anyway. So I'm sure that's where my brain was. If I saw you or looked at you, I probably went, nah, if I knew that guy, he would have said something.
Well, I really thought that you were just needed to be somewhere else. It's not like you have all the time in the world. So sometimes when you're done at Corolla, you have someplace to be.
Usually I'm jumping in my car to get back on another business call.
Right. That's exactly what I thought was what's the case.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, Vinny. Is it okay if I give away one of your Blu-rays of this film?
Thanks, man.
I mean, hello. Just because I was a backer doesn't mean I stopped there. I support you, brother.
Okay.
Okay, so here's what I need everybody to do. Vinny and I are going to give away a Blu-ray of Fat, a documentary. But this is what you got to do. You have to tweet at both of us, at Vinnie Tortorich, at Fascination Street Pod, why you want to see this movie. You have to tell us what makes you deserved to see this film.
Good idea. I like that.
Is it a health problem? Is it a weight problem? Do you just not feel right? Because I will tell you that all of those things do get affected. Once some of these truths are unlocked for you, different things in your life change that you didn't expect.
A truth has never been spoken.
Nice. Thanks, man. So, Vinny, I have taken up a lot of your time. I feel like you probably have some bachelor date in paradise with your boyfriend to go to.
Almost paradise. Me and Doc.
So, real quick, tell everybody where they can find your podcast and what it's called again.
It's called Fitness Confidential Podcast. You can find it on all the regular podcasts, with iTunes, what have you, Stitcher, anywhere. I think we're even on Pandora. My podcast seems to be everywhere, and I don't even know where it is. My book is also called Fitness Confidential. You can also get the Audible copy at Audible, or you can go to Amazon or any of those places. And the movie is tearing it up on iTunes, Amazon, Vimeo, and VOD wherever you are. I think it's on 60 different VODs around the world and coming to an airline near you. So it's called Fat, a documentary.
Not to be confused with that other movie that we don't talk about that is about a fat colon.
Yeah.
This is the actual punctuation, a colon,
yeah.
and then a documentary.
Amazon still makes everyone punch the whole thing in, which means that there's something going on with Amazon. We can't really figure it out. But
you know what? Let's talk about that for just 1 second.
Sure.
On the Amazon platform, your documentary film, Fat, a documentary, was moved around like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 times into different categories. Tell me about that story.
Yeah, when it was still up for pre-order, at first they put it in fiction, and we called Amazon back and said, hey, look, the name of the movie is Fat, a documentary, and you guys put it in fiction. And they went, oh, yeah, our mistake. It's a documentary. You're right. So they took it out of fiction, and they put it in special interest. And we went, hey, our movie is called Fat, a documentary. It's still not a documentary. Oh, yeah. And then they put it in like action adventure. They kept hiding it everywhere. So it finally came out, and it was killing it all over Amazon and everywhere else. They still didn't put it in the right category. They still they're moving it all over the place. I think finally it's in documentaries or somewhere. But
that is so insane.
Yeah, it was crazy that they weren't doing that.
I'm surprised they didn't put a rating on it.
Who knows? Don't give them any ideas.
All right, Vinny, thank you for taking the time. I know that you're about to do a whole lot of press, so thank you for, hitting me up first. Holler. Now, is there anything that we didn't talk about or I didn't ask you that you wanted to talk about?
Cock size, no, we got to that. No, I think we're good. I think we're good.
Awesome. He said cock size. All right, now, Vinnie Tortorich. I mean, I've probably said it 32 times already, but I can't thank you enough, man. It's such a pleasure to talk to you every single time. I love you. You've done a lot for me. I know you're going to say it wasn't you, but it was. So thank you for the knowledge. Thank you for imparting some wisdom and some things that I was lacking. I appreciate that. You really have changed my life, brother. I'm going to let you go. I want you to tell Serena I said hello, and then I want you to go ask Doug if Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
You know what? You can ask me and Doug right now on Twitter. You can say, like, I was just podcasting with Vinny. I think his Twitter handle is @ByDougRich, @ByDougRich, BY. And let's mess with Doug online.
You're right, it is.
Interviewing Vinny. Did you find him yet?
Yeah, I got it. It is by Doug Rich.
Yeah, by Doug Rich. Hey, Doug, I'm talking to, I'm interviewing Vinny. We're trying to figure out if Die Hard 2 is a Christmas movie. I know he gets probably asked that every day of his life.
Oh, I'm sure he gets a million. I could probably just look through his Twitter feed and find the answer, but it's way more fun to ask him.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. I like Doug.
Awesome. Well, Vinny, thank you so much, man. I'm going to release you, dude. Go have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, man. You have a good evening.
Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey y'all, it's Lisa from Texla True Crime. I've got a brand new podcast that covers homicides, missing people, and well, anything that I want to talk about in Texas and Louisiana. I do tell some jokes and I do try to keep it kind of light, but at the end of the day, we're trying to give voices back to the people who no longer have them and to bring stories that have kind of fallen out of the limelight back into it. I hope you'll join me. You can find me on iTunes or wherever you download your podcasts. Bye y'all. I hope you're hearing from me soon.
As always, thanks for listening, Streetwalkers. And don't forget, follow the show on Twitter at FascinationSTPD, on Instagram at Fascination Street Pod. Follow the podcast page on Facebook at Fascination Street Podcast. And of course, you can always email me at fascinationstreetpod@gmail.com. And if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and rate us on iTunes. For the next 3 months, everybody who rates and reviews the show and sends a screenshot to fascinationstreetpod@gmail.com will get a free surprise gift mailed to them. Every single one of you. So do it. Thanks, Streetwalkers. Opening music is the song Magnolia from the 2014 album Intransigence. Used with permission from Douglas Miles Clark. Closing music is Apollo from the 2001 album Into the Known by the band Sapphire. Thanks for hanging out with us and getting to know a little bit about our guest. We'll see you next time on Fascination Street.